Council meeting of January 6, 2016. Could I have a roll call, please?
Dan Carey.
Present.
Peg Coniff. Here. Salem Derby.
Present.
Jennifer Hayes.
Here.
J.P. Kuzinski.
Here.
Joe McCoy.
Here.
Dan Rist.
Here.
Tamara Smith. Here. Joy Winnie.
Here.
Will please all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the next thing on the agenda is a little bit out of sorts. We missed be able to recognize our retiring city councilor at large, Nathan Ziegler. So it's with great pleasure and honor that I get to present Councilor Ziegler with a plaque of appreciation for his 2 terms on city council, and an outstanding job and well thought out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're now on to public speak time, which is anyone from the public who would like to address the council. Okay, sorry, let me back up for a minute. Approval of the minutes. Could I take accept a motion for the approval of minutes of December 16th?
So moved. Second.
Okay, a motion, a second for the approval of the minutes of December 16th. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions?
Aye.
Probably 3
Abstain.
with
One abstention.
Peg, too.
Joy, Peg, and Dan.
Right.
Anybody else?
At least we could pass this.
Okay, yes. Okay, now we can move on to public speak time. So public speak time, again, is an opportunity for someone to come to the podium, speak to the council about anything other than what's on the public hearings, which we have none tonight. So it is not misinterpreted, we are limited by open meeting rules that we can't discuss with you anything you talk about because it would need to have been pre-advertising since we don't know what you may be talking. But in this at this opportunity, anyone wants to come up to the podium and address the city council, feel free to. If you could just state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Paul Morey. I live at 14 Dewey Street here in East Hampton. My son is Andrew Morey, who has sent you a letter, which I believe you're going to read this evening. Earlier this afternoon, my son and I were in my living room being interviewed for the news, and I'm speaking on the Confederate flag issue, just in case anybody's not aware. But we were being interviewed, and the nice lady asked my son a question. She said, "Are you a racist?" And of course his response was no. And as I listened to that, it made me think of a lesson that I, and I'm sure everyone in this room, learned in their childhood or at some point, which was don't judge a book by its cover. I would like to ask everyone a question for you to just ask yourself. I would ask you to ask yourself, do I think that all Muslims are terrorists? I would hope that everyone would answer no to that question. I certainly would. The second question I'd like you to ask yourself is this. Do I think that all people who fly the Confederate flag are racist? Now, I would hope that the answer to that question is also no. It's certainly been an interesting day for me and my son, but I think the lesson that we can come away with, or the warning we should take away from this whole issue, is everyone should be careful for demanding that other people's rights be curtailed or taken away. Because at some point I don't care who you are, I don't care how you could be the nicest person in the world, but at some point in your life, you're going to say something or do something that someone else is going to find offensive. And be careful if you demand that somebody else's rights be taken away, because someday somebody may demand that yours be taken away. Thank you very much for your time, and I also appreciate you reading his letter as part of the record. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to? Mr. Valancourt, please, if you could just state your name for the record and address, please.
Good evening. Jim Valancourt, 15 Cottage Street. I just want to take this opportunity to welcome the new council members. And also to say how proud I am to live in a city where the city council reaffirms that we are a city that treats people equally and fairly and ethically, and that there's no place for bigotry in this city. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else from the council? I mean, I'm sorry, from the public who would like to address the council on this? Okay. Not being seen. So we'll move on to communications from elected officials, boards, and committees. So Councilor Derby.
Thank you, Mr. President. The council did receive a letter from the East Hampton Affordable and Fair Housing Partnership regarding the Cottage Square Apartments. It seems like there were some concerns. There was a meeting, and those concerns have now been addressed, and it looks like things will continue to move forward amicably.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Now, under correspondence, we're going to, as our gentleman spoke to, we're going to address some of the letters that were received. So Councilor Smith had crafted a reply from the City Council, so I'm going to ask her to read the initial letter and her crafted response to that, please.
Okay, thank you. Okay, for the record, I am reading a letter that was sent to the City Council from Carolyn. Do I need to say her last name? I just have her as Carolyn Zykowski.
Yeah,
and
it's
her
a public
email.
record. That'd be fine.
Okay. To the mayor and the city council members, I live on Grant Street in East Hampton. There is a Confederate flag flying in my neighborhood at 1 Gross Lane at the corner of Parsons. I find this offensive and scary, as do many other East Hampton residents I know. I do not think it is appropriate at all, just like a Nazi or ISIS flag wouldn't be appropriate. This does not belong in East Hampton, nor does it reflect the open and generous spirit of East Hampton should an outsider drive through. I know there's not much I can do, but wanted to bring it to your attention. Thank you sincerely, Carolyn Zykowski, 4 Grant Street. My response to this reads, Dear fellow councilors, I am writing to encourage each of one of you to consider signing a response that Hayes and I penned in response to Carolyn Zykowski's inquiry about a Confederate flag flying in the New City area. In addition to at least 2 Confederate flags flying in East Hampton, I've also seen Black Lives Matter signs on Clark Street covered with spray paint tagging. We have an opportunity to make a statement that our council does not stand for such blatant racism. I am willing to take on following up with creating a list of ways that we have promoted tolerance and inclusiveness in East Hampton, and have several ideas to provide educational forums about race relations as well. My colleagues at Westfield State are East Hampton residents and are willing to help facilitate a discussion. Please see the letter below and let me know if you would like to be included in this response. I plan to send this letter out by Friday at the latest. Happy Thanksgiving. Take care, Tamara. The letter, Dear Ms. Zykowski. Your letter caused us great pause as we considered the message that the Confederate flag in East Hampton is sending both to residents and visitors, especially during such historically turbulent times. The flag that is in your neighborhood is not the only Confederate flag in East Hampton, unfortunately. As you know, the freedom of speech protection provided by the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution allows people to fly the Confederate flag on their private property. As city councilors, we do not have the authority to force a private resident to remove the flag. Your email has raised questions for us about what East Hampton does do as a city to promote an inclusive environment and what still needs to be done. The City Council has a resolution pertaining to discrimination and intolerance. We have a moral responsibility to hold up to the resolutions that we pledge. We would like to look further into how to document how we have done as a municipality to address issues of race and the specific ways in which the City Council has promoted a community of tolerance and inclusion that recognizes the strengths of a diverse population. One civic engagement group in East Hampton that we would recommend you looking into more is the East Hampton Matters group. Taken from their webpage, www.easthamptonmatters.org, East Hampton Matters is a grassroots community group that is committed to helping city residents engage in respectful, open discussions about difficult municipal issues. We hope to inspire solution-based conversations that can bring resources and improvements to East Hampton. Our community needs to open a dialogue to discuss contemporary race issues and how they affect our residents. While we cannot directly demand or enforce a citizen to remove private property, we can be vigilant in our attempts to create an environment that empowers our residents to be critically engaged in these matters. Thank you for your letter. It's an important reminder that there is still so much to do. Perhaps we should look upon your neighbor's flag as a symbol that there is still unfinished business in confronting and acting on the inequalities that exist not only in our country, but within our own backyards. Sincerely, Tamara Smith.
Thank you very much. And then following up that, I will read the letter that, as Mr. Maury mentioned, was sent in by his son. This was dated January 5th, 2016. To the Honorable Mayor and the City Councils of the City of East Hampton, the Confederate flag has been put through a lot of stigma lately, saying that somehow the flag itself is racist. I am here to say that a flag cannot by itself be racist. It is under what context that person flies such a flag. This battle flag was a symbol used by the people in this country who believed they had the rights to succeed if the federal government took authority over state governments. This was a key point to the Civil War. The Civil War was fought over states' rights, but acknowledged that slavery became an issue in the war. That being said, I do not condone the ownership of another person. I never will condone such a gruesome act against humanity. Speaking of gruesome acts against humanity, comparing the Confederate flag to the Nazi flag or the ISIS flag is not right. Slavery and the Holocaust are not comparable. Neither are the ISIS beheadings and slavery. They are not the same things. The reason that I chose to fly a Confederate flag on private property should not be of anyone's business but my own. I choose to offer an explanation here because the defense of civil liberties is an important issue to me. First Amendment rights allow me to fly this flag and will continue to do so until it is changed. My private property rights allow me to fly this flag as well. My personal reasons for flying the flag leave me with a clear moral conscience, not because of any apparent racist message. On the contrary, I fly it because without the Civil War, this country would not be as great as it is today. I believe this country is one of the most tolerant and acceptable in the whole world because of lessons learned from history. This flag should still be respected as people's heritage. I am currently studying history and am a history major in college. My love of history allows me to respect this flag, not as a racist symbol, but as a symbol of our country's ability to reunite as one. The ideal should be embraced by all people in East Hampton, indeed by all people in this great country. The First Amendment does not contain the right not to be offended. If we continue down the path of allowing the squeakiest wheel to decide when offensive speech should no longer be tolerated or even allowed, we will lose our First Amendment rights. Once we allow limitations to be placed on our freedoms, then we can never truly be free. Benjamin Franklin once said, "Those who give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety." He also said, "Freedom of speech is a principal pillar of free government. When this support is taken away, the constitution of a free society is dissolved and tyranny is erected in its ruins." You have any questions, concerns about my Confederate flag, I strongly encourage you to speak to me personally before making assumptions about my right to fly it on my property or about my personal beliefs of said flag. I thank you for your time and appreciate your valuable leadership of the City of East Hampton. Andrew Moore, East Hampton resident. Again, thank you very much for this letter, Andrew. And although we may not agree on everything in here, I applaud your strength of character and bravery to face publicly your strength. It's very admirable in a young man. That being said, I think we needed to address this. And so, as a council, I have a statement. And the thing I like about this, I bet you the Maury family will also agree with this statement. So, January 6th, the East Hampton City Council remains true to our oath taken on Monday, January 4th, to uphold the Constitution of the United States, including the First Amendment guaranteeing free speech. We also stand by the unanimously passed resolution with zero tolerance for any kind of discrimination in East Hampton. So that is what I would like to put for our record from the council statements. I think I think probably both parties here deserve that there's lots of pressing issues facing the city, so if you're asked from any more questions from the press, feel free just to refer to this statement for the council's opinion. Again, thank you all for your participation in your government. Mayor Communications, I think we can do that before, there are no public hearings, so Mayor Communications.
On a much lighter note, I'd like to congratulate again, our counselors and also our new counselors on the election, and extend to you my offer. I'm willing to meet with you anytime. But pop in, give me a call. Any questions you might have, I just want to extend an open invitation. If you have any questions whatsoever, don't hesitate to contact me. My goal is to obviously work together because we're all here for the same reason, to work for the betterment of our community. And so please don't hesitate, now or in the future to, ask me anything or work with me on any issues. So I really look forward to working with you. And I just wanted to bring something to the councilor's attention. One of your appointments, you have, as you all know, you appoint the assessor. And we have a standard procedure during before the probation period is over, which is a 6-month probation period for a new employee, to do a performance review, and which is done by the HR department or personnel department. As the appointing authority, this document is not a public document, but is open for the counselors to pop in at any time, and it's in the personnel file, and to view this review. So I just wanted to give you an open invitation and tell you that document is there for your perusal, but it is not a public document. And again, any questions, don't hesitate to ask.
Okay, are there any questions for the mayor? Okay, thank you. Moving on, we can move on to standing committees. And again, as I said before, those that are held by a previous chair, please give the report. I think it was Finance with Councilor Rist and Property with Councilor Kwasinski, which was different for today. So Rules and Government Relations, Councilor Rist.
Yes, Mr. President, thank you. We will again form our new committee this evening. At that time, we will discuss perhaps when we could meet to deal with the item that's on our agenda, the new item of electronic agenda discussion. I did want to bring forward something that I know will be talked about tomorrow with regard to the orientation meeting for our new counselors, but I wanted to remind the council, I do this every time we start a new term, about the open meeting law and how very careful we need to be. You might have seen today there was an item where the Attorney General is taken to task in the Northampton Committee, and they are pretty strong on it. So I remind you that any correspondence you may have, especially electronic, is public record. You cannot debate an item on the agenda by email correspondence with another counselor. You can ask for information through email, for instance. You can ask for information about a subject to the department heads, the mayor, the finance director, etc. But I caution you about sharing any opinions with other counselors. All of these emails are subject to public record and can be requested by the press, and you need to know that. Also, you can't meet where you think you're in private. We are always city councilors. There's no time when we're not a city councilor. So when you meet in private between 2 or 3 people and discuss an item on our agenda, you're violating the open meeting law. I just wanted to remind you of that. The other thing we did as a matter of trying to promote transparency, the council a couple of terms ago asked that all of our subcommittee meetings be recorded. So if you're a new chair, you need to make sure that you turn on the recording device if it's available in the room you're meeting at. That's very important. Okay, thank you very much, and I know the orientation committee will go into detail on these items tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Finance, Councilor Rist.
Oh, jeez. I would like to first announce that our first meeting, having spoken with the other councilors, will be on every other Wednesday, and next Wednesday, the 13th, at 5 p.m. We're changing the time so that department heads and we all can maybe have dinner at a reasonable hour. So 5 p.m. next Wednesday, which time we'll discuss items on our agenda. I'd also like to, with the President's permission, refer to the budget request that we received from the Finance Director. That is the budget for the City Council, which we must prepare. I'd like to make a motion that be sent to the Finance Committee for review this evening.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second to submit to Finance the City Council budget for next fiscal year. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes.
Thank you. That concludes.
Thank you. Public Safety, Counselor Hayes.
Thank you, Mr. President. After this city council meeting, we're going to get together and decide when our new committee is going to meet, and I will put all that forward to Barbara. In the interim, I would like to ask for a 90-day extension without prejudice for the request to allow on-street parking on a section of Pleasant Street, as it's about to expire.
Second. Okay, a motion, a second for, was it 30-day extension? 90-day extension for the Pleasant Street parking. Any additional comments, questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion passes.
Thus concludes, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you. Appointments, Counselor Winnie.
Thank you. We met tonight at 5:30 to review the appointment that was not made at the last meeting, which I did not attend, and that was for Melissa Cody. It was not voted on at the last meeting because there were some questions and concerns that came up about the appointment. In the meantime, we received a communication from Ms. Cody, who eloquently explained her processes and what she does during her meetings as a member of the Conservation Commission. And all three counselors, Counselor McCoy, Counselor Smith, and myself, all felt that she very eloquently iterated in her email to us that she was not in any way, shape, or form trying to make anybody feel uncomfortable during their public meeting, and that she absolutely encourages the public to come to their meetings with their concerns and to voice them so that they can immediately start to investigate them, so say. The appointments subcommittee voted 3-0 to recommend the full appointment to the full council. I will make that in the form of a motion that we recommend Melissa Cody to the Conservation Commission for another 2-year term, which is to December 31st, 2017? 2018, excuse me, thank you. To 2018. I make that in the form of a motion, please.
Second.
Okay, a motion, a second to accept the appointment of Melissa Cody to the Conservation Commission. Any additional comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes.
Thank you. The next appointment in front of us that was discussed is for Eileen Myers to the East Hampton Council on Aging. And because she is related to me by marriage, I am going to hand this appointment over to Counselor Smith and abstain.
Okay. Thank you, Counselor Winnie.
Thank you.
So we met today to discuss the appointment of Eileen Myers to the East Hampton Council on Aging with a vote of 2-0 for approving this appointment with one abstention. We voted to move this appointment to the full City Council for approval. So I would like to make a motion to accept Eileen Myers as an East Hampton Council on Aging board committee member with a term expiration of 12/31/17.
Is there a second? Okay, motion, a second to accept Eileen Myers, East Hampton Council on Aging. Any additional discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion
Abstain.
passed. One abstention, sorry.
Thank you. So our next meeting, thank you for doing that, Counselor. Our next meeting will be on January 20th at 5 o'clock. And I would ask that we add to our agenda that we are going to do the 4 mayoral appointments. So I make that in the form of a motion that the 4 mayoral appointments in new business be moved to appointment subcommittee.
Second.
Okay, a motion, a second to move the recent 4 mayoral appointments to appointment subcommittee. Any additional discussion or comments? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion passes.
Thank you. We are also going to add to our agenda that we are going to ask the mayor to join us to review the appointments application that is online, see if we can tidy it up and update it a little bit so it's more community friendly, as per se. And then we are also going to develop job description and duties for the appointment subcommittee to help Counselor Smith and go forward with her new City Council 101 handbook, orientation handbook. So those two things were added to for our next meeting agenda, which will again be January 20th, 2016 at 5 p.m. In whatever location that the city clerk puts us in.
Okay,
Thank you.
that concludes.
It does, thank you.
Ordinance, Councilor Derby.
Thank you, Mr. President. Since we haven't met, we don't have a next meeting date that will be forthcoming. I do need to have a piece of housekeeping cleaned up here. I'd like to, in the form of a motion, request a 60-day extension to the request to consider creating a food truck ordinance.
Second. Okay, a motion, a second for a 60-day extension relating to the food truck ordinance. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes.
That concludes.
Okay, thank you. Property, Council Kwasinski.
Property will be meeting this evening after our meeting to decide on any times that may be necessary. We have no agenda business at this time.
Great, thank you. Old business, we still have the Boardwalk Naming Committee, we're still taking names. New business, there are actually 2 to 3 new CPA appointments that the council and the mayor have to deal with. One of them is a mayoral appointment, which has been submitted as part of that 4 that we just moved to appointments. Another one is the finance chair or the finance chair's appointee will be part of that committee, and that is something that Councilor Rist and that committee will deal with, of who that will be representative will be on the CPA. The other one is an appointment that is introduced by the city council president, and it's not a mayoral appointment, so it typically doesn't have to go through the sent to subcommittee. We received 3 applications for it, which was great because we have had these discussions lately. How do we get people to find out openings we have? And so it was interesting asking them, how did you find out? One of them was on Mass Live, and then one of them was in the Gazette. So those getting those openings out to the press are really important for outreach. We had 3 really actually great applicants. One of them, Mayor Cadger is submitting. The one I chose, his name is Ryan Barry. I believe it's in your packet. His background is a letter that he's a lawyer from Springfield, lived in East Hampton. He did very well. We got letters from work saying what outstanding, bright, and motivated young man he was. So that was my selection for the Community Preservation Act. Now, again, this is usually just a city council president. I like to take a vote on this. So I would...
I'll move that we accept the president's appointment of
Ryan Barry.
Ryan Barry to this
CPA.
I'll second that motion,
Second,
please.
so there's a motion, a second, to accept the city council president's appointment of Ryan Barry to CPA. Any additional comments or questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes.
Abstain. Yeah, I just found it, just reading it now.
Okay, so before we conclude our meeting, again, so basically now, we are going to reorganize, and as I said at the reorganizing meeting, maybe try to give a little bit of organization to it and try to do it in pairs of 2 meetings. Even that, you may have to be at 2 meetings at one time, but it's relatively quick. But the first 2, I think we should try to organize, and you can take 2 different corners over there, or you could take these 2 corners. However, but finance and ordinance, and then when they're done, we can do the rules and government relations and property, and then we're done, we can do appointments and public safety. Yeah, Councilor, sorry.
Yes, Mr. President, are we going to go to recess while we're doing this, or are we going to stay on the air?
We're going to
stay
adjourn
on
this
the air?
meeting, right?
Okay, we're going to adjourn?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's a good point. So I will, since everyone knows what we're going to be doing, and I believe you have forms for everyone to fill out. So every subcommittee will have forms to give Barb, so she's aware of who that chair and who that treasurer will be. So on that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Make a motion, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes.